You're wanting to become a real estate investor or get involved in real estate investing, and you're wondering, should I get a real estate agent's license in order to become an investor? Well, the bad news is I can't really answer that for you because everyone's situation is different. The good news is I can give you two pretty concrete considerations or things to think about in order to help you decide that answer for yourself. So I'm going to give you those two things to think about to help you determine your answer. And then I'm going to swoop in and tell you secretly what I would do if I were you. Okay, here we go. Two things to think about when you're trying to decide if you should get a real estate agent's license in order to do real estate investing. Consideration number one, what is it you're actually trying to do as a real estate investor? There are a million different strategies in real estate investing and a million different ways to do them. What are you interested in? Some of those strategies might be helpful to have a real estate agent's license. Some of those strategies might legally require you to have a license. Other strategies, you're not going to benefit 10 ways to Sunday if you have a license. So at that point, what's the point? So what is it you're trying to do as a real estate investor? And if you don't yet know that answer, hold off on the license unless you're just really interested in getting it. But look at the different possibilities for why or where you may need that license. One of the biggest things is, do you want to be able to find your own properties? Let's say you want to be a flipper or a wholesaler or a bird dog. Do you want access to the MLS to be able to find properties there? If you want access to the MLS, you might want to get your license, unless you have an agent friend who can help you with that. If you want to be able to source your own properties, being an agent might be helpful. Depends on your market, depends on the MLS in your market, but you can start there for thinking about it. Or what if the strategy you're trying to do, let's say you want to be a referral agent. Well, be careful because there are a lot of gray areas in real estate where in many cases, legally, you need to be a licensed real estate agent in order to accept referral fees as a referral agent. Or many companies call these marketing fees. You want to be really careful about the legality because there are very strict rules about who can accept referral fees or payments on property transactions. So in this consideration, what are you trying to do as a real estate investor? And within that, are there ways that either you may benefit from having an agent's license or you may need an agent's license? With those two said, there are a lot of strategies where neither of those are required. So that's consideration number one. How are you trying to invest? What are you trying to do as a real estate investor? And use that to gauge whether you actually need that license or not. Consideration number two, and this one I hear a lot from people who come to me saying, I'm interested in investing. Should I get my license? Because they think that getting their real estate license is going to give them information on how to be a better investor or how to invest or logistics around housing and properties that may help them invest. As a licensed real estate agent, here's my experience of going through studying for the test and taking the test. The knowledge that I learned going through this it's twofold. Number one, it was very specific from what I experienced to the work that actual real estate agents do, completely outside of investing. There's a big difference between normal real estate agent work, people helping people buy primary homes, and real estate investing. Most real estate agents don't know a lick about investing. So the content that I learned getting my license was very specific to becoming an agent, not becoming an investor. And then secondarily, it was very rote knowledge. Again, if you're becoming an agent, it's probably helpful, but for the intricacies of things you would actually need to learn and like real life scenario, like day in the life of, if you're trying to do this strategy, here's what here's how this all works. You're not going to get that studying for the real estate test. So it's rote knowledge. And in my experience, it's kind of specific to being an agent, not an investor. There were no chapters about investing on my real estate test. So keep that in mind also, is the knowledge you're going to get from studying for that test and taking that test actually going to be helpful for what it is you're trying to learn? Chances are probably not. I don't know. Again, depends on what you're trying to do. I wouldn't think that it would be helpful in most cases. So those are the two things that I think you should consider when you're trying to decide if you need the license. Number one, what is it you're trying to do? And is the license actually needed or helpful? And number two, is the knowledge you're going to get from studying for the test actually going to be helpful? So ask yourself those two questions. And then I promised you what I would do in your shoes. Before I give you that, hit that like button. Throw me a bone here. So, I'm going to tell you my secret. There's my payback. Give me a little like. So here's what I would do in your shoes. Unless you are absolutely clear on what it is that you're trying to do and you're clear that it needs a license for one reason or another, if that's not the case, just get started as an investor and keep an eye out for when and if a license may become helpful to you. So let's say you're bird dogging for somebody and you're trying to find properties for wholesalers and you realize, gee, if I had access to the MLS, I would have way more resources at my disposal. Okay, let me go get my license. Noted. Or if you come into something where you realize that legally you need to have a license, okay, so go get the license. If you get the license before you know that you actually need it or that you realize it would be directly helpful to what you're doing, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse. Trust me when I say you have enough to learn as an investor to get started without worrying about this little real estate license test. So again, in conclusion, if I were you, I would just wait until I knew for sure that I needed it, unless you're just that interested in doing that or having that license or getting that information. But otherwise, just remember that the licensing stuff is not always that applicable to investing. Obviously, there's some crossover, but you want to look at that for yourself and see if you actually need to go through all of that in order to become a successful investor. Hopefully that helps. Smash that like button if you can. Make sure you're subscribed. Many more videos to come your way shortly.